Former BYU quarterback Max Hall knows all about comebacks.
Second down.
One was in 2009 when he found Andrew George for this overtime touchdown against Utah.
Andrew George!
Still the winningest quarterback in BYU history. What comes to mind when you think of your BYU career?
Oh man, well I mean, that one's big.
Touchdown BYU!
In overtime against Utah, crowd rushed the field. It doesn't get any better than that. So great moment for Andrew, for me, for the team. Definitely a highlight for me.
At the 7-yard line with your senior quarterback.
Another highlight at another comeback came earlier that same year with a win against Oklahoma, where Hall found McKay Jacobson in the back of the end zone.
To the end zone, touchdown!
Honestly, it comes down to just the group of guys that I was around. The players, the coaches, looking back at all the fun times that we had. We worked our butts off and played good football and had a good time doing it. So I really enjoyed it when I was here.
With the comebacks also came some setbacks and a few unflattering headlines. This one came in 2009, 1 year after BYU lost at Utah, when Hall let out 1 year of frustrations in the post-game press conference.
I don't like Utah. In fact, I hate them. I hate their program, I hate their fans, I hate everything. So it felt really good to send those guys home.
Here's what people need to realize is, the game my junior year, we play at Utah, and I didn't play well. I think I had 5 interceptions. We lose. And after the game, when I come out and I see my family all huddled around and Utah fans yelling at them and throwing things at them, got personal. For a year, I had to hear about that, but I used it as fuel. I used it as motivation to work hard to get better. But now it's fun. You see Utah fans wearing Max Hall Hates Me shirts, and I love it. I take pictures with them. Yeah, I popped off after that game, and rightfully so. People make shirts and make fun of me, but hopefully people realize why.
6 years later, after a short time in the NFL and CFL, came this headline after his arrest for shoplifting and drug possession.
That was the lowest day of my life. Being arrested and then being the headline of all the newspapers, and just the way I looked, it puts a pit in my stomach that I had to go through that, and I had to put my family through that. And it forced me to have to go get help and to change my life. So maybe that was God's way of telling me, look, enough's enough.
Hall said what got him to that point was when he became the starting quarterback his 1 year in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals. He played after suffering 2 concussions earlier in the season, injuries he kept to himself. Later that season, he separated his shoulder. The prescription he was given for pain was taken in just 3 days, which he said led to more addictive drugs, sinking him deeper into addiction.
I don't even remember where I was, but I was in a parking lot somewhere, and I remember sitting down on a curb, and the thought, for the first time in my life, coming out of, what's the point, right? What's the point of going on? I've ruined everything. I've destroyed my family, my reputation, everything's gone. That is a low point. So I had to make a decision, die or fight.
The second that he decided to go get help, I said, okay, let's do this. I'm ready to fight right there with you, and you're not alone, and I'm so, so grateful that I did.
Mackenzie Hall struggled through her husband's addiction as well, not knowing what to do or who to turn to. She kept it a secret early on, hoping he would turn things around.
I kind of got to the point I knew I needed to protect myself and the kids, and the place he was in was not a good place for us to be in with him, and I didn't know what was going to happen if he, if you're an addict, basically if you don't get help, you're either going to end up in prison or dead. And so I was 99% sure that we were going to have to leave, that me and the kids were going to have to leave, and I could never have said the word divorce. There was 1% holding on that he could be the man that I knew that he had inside of him.
How you doing? Great to see you. So glad you're back.
I knew he had issues, and I knew they were difficult issues, but when that happened, it was like, okay, this is so much past issues. This is now life or death. This is now keep your family or lose everything. Let's go.
Here we go.
With that kind of support, Hall went all in on his road to sobriety, spending 3 months in an inpatient facility. Not only is Hall the winningest quarterback in BYU history, but he was also one of the toughest. And it was that toughness that helped him when he needed it most.
I took pride as a quarterback of no matter how hard I got hit, I was gonna try to get up faster than the guy that hit me. When I took this hit from addiction, first time in my life, I didn't want to get back up. You know, I wanted to lay there until I got that motivation, and then that fight inside of me started kind of, you know, that light turned on a little bit, and I was able to use that toughness and that grittiness and everything from football and playing quarterback. Now, how do I take all that and put it towards sobriety? I had to make the decision for me, that I was gonna get sober for me, not for anybody else. And when I finally made that decision and was willing to do everything I needed to, whether I wanted to or not, to do it, that's when my true sobriety started. And I started to kind of come out of that shell and get back to being me.
Oh man, this is gonna be fun.
Max came back to BYU this summer to play in the alumni game, surrounding himself with familiar faces and many players who cheered him on during his recovery. Today at age 36,
When you're able to get sober,
Hall is sharing his story on his weekly podcast, Agents of Recovery.
I'm so proud of Max, so proud of him. What a great example he is to so many people about overcoming adversity. He's been put through the ringer and put through some really tough times, and to turn around and try to find a way to make other people feel better, that's something special.
He's also coaching at American Leadership Academy High School in Queen Creek, Arizona. He's the team's offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach under head coach Ty Detmer.
We're all going to go through struggles one form or another, and to see him, you know, battle that and take it on head on is important. You know, I think that's one of the messages with the kids is when you mess up, hey, own it, take ownership, learn from it, and let's move on. You know, I think he's at a great point in his life right now, and he's doing awesome work down there with the young men.
We all got our things we got to work through. For some people, it gets thrown out in the public eye, right? And I know that was probably devastating for Max, his wife, and his family. And he and I have had talks about it. And so the cool thing for me is the inner strength that it takes from any person to be able to go through something like that speaks volume for the character that Max has. And to be able to see him come back and he's leading young men. He goes out and speaks about his challenges, right? Like that takes a lot of guts to stand out there and say, hey, you know what? I made a huge mistake. I've worked my tail off to get back to this point. I cherish dearly all of these things now. I hold on to them, I see them differently, and I want to impact you guys so that you're not making the same mistakes, or if you're in the same hole I was, I want you to be able to believe you can climb out of it because I'm here to tell you you can.
What lessons are you hoping to teach them from what you've learned in so many different arenas really throughout your life?
man, there's so many lessons that you can go through it, but it's, you know, you have the lessons of hard work and dedication and all that stuff, but overcoming adversity, doing things you don't want to do. You know, I always tell people discipline, Mike Tyson said, is doing things that you hate to do, but doing them like you love it, because you know it's going to make you better. And those are the lessons that I love teaching, because something's going to happen to you in your life. It may not be addiction, maybe you lose a loved one or you lose a job. And if you can do it out here, you can do it in real life.
It's a message Hall will share throughout his life.
I was super lucky, and I was able to come out of the other side.
The story of a battle he says he'll always need to keep in check.
That's why we're opening Victory Recovery.
Just weeks ago, he announced the opening of a substance abuse counseling center in Arizona, focusing on therapy, aftercare, and comebacks.
You know, I'm proud of what I've done. I'm so thankful and blessed to be where I'm at. We're doing everything we can to save lives when it comes down to it. I was lucky enough to make it out, and there were people out there who helped save my life. I want to give back.
That's what life's all about. When you can tap into what your gifts are and your skills are and give back, then everything works the way it's supposed to. He came this close, maybe this close, to losing it all. And he fought his butt off, and he's back. And this country, of all countries in the world, believes in redemption stories, and he's a great story. So I'm so grateful.
Today, if you were to write a headline about your life, what would it say?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question. I would hope that the headline would say something to the effect of Max Hall's back, and he's doing what he can to help and bless the lives of others. I would want that to be the headline.